While many Calgary homeowners are fretting about rising interest rates and their renewals coming up, some luxury buyers are quietly snapping up million-dollar properties at a pace that might surprise you. Check this out. Calgary overall has had a 2.4 months of inventory for the last couple of months. Luxury homes over $1 million, the 90-day month of inventory is 4.3 and the 30 is 2.95. So it's trending into a hotter market, and it's really not that far behind the whole of Calgary. Another thing is when sales decreased year over year for the whole city by 19%, homes over $1 million actually saw an increase of 8.4% for the number of sales last month. This supply-demand imbalance in Calgary's luxury sector has created a two-tiered market where some communities see properties sell within days and others are lingering for months. Now, understanding this disparity is essential for both buyers and sellers if you are in the market for homes over $1 million. So today's plan, we're going to dive into the data for homes over $1 million and then uncover some of the best and worst areas for this past month, along with sharing the most expensive and cheapest areas for you to look at all over $1 million. So the first chart that I want to share with you is a little bit to do more with population and what kind of happening in the market overall in Calgary, but it really does affect what's happening in our $1 million plus market. So Canada's population growth is slowing down. And this is something you've seen from our potential new political leaders, that they are starting to decrease the amount of people that are coming into our country. And I think that is a great thing, because where there's too much demand and not enough supply, it just pushes prices, and it's making things, not so much in Calgary, but definitely in other cities, it really is pushing that affordability like really high. Now, when it comes to Alberta, it's a little bit of a different story. So even though we've seen the population, or we will see the population decrease in terms of new people coming into our country, the thing that we will see is people still moving to Alberta. There's a lot of reasons for this. I'm not going to go through all of them because I want to talk about the market, but this is something where I believe that as people who are from other provinces and the interprovincial migrations that are still happening all the time, they're coming to Alberta and they're finding properties in Calgary, they're finding properties in Edmonton, and they're moving their families here and changing their whole lives. And a lot of it is to do with affordability. A lot of it to do is with lifestyle. Some of it's government. There's a lot of different reasons for it. And we're going to continue to see that. Last quarter, Q4 of 2024, Alberta still led the country with a 3.5% growth year over year in its population growth. So we're going to probably see that. And maybe I've seen from some economists too, some of these numbers we could actually see in the negatives, where Alberta's could possibly stay in the positives. Time will tell. So we've got March's numbers here, and let's jump into the data for the market of the luxury homes over $1 million. Now, I know some of you are like, a $1.1 million home isn't necessarily a luxury home. Well, you're right, but $1 million is a clean number that we can cut off, because if we chose two, then this video just wouldn't work. So sold, we had 219 sales in Calgary alone. We had 29 sales in Canmore. There was 34 sales in the rural areas around the city, and then a handful of things otherwise. Now, if we look at 30-day and 90-day months of inventory, this tells the story of what is that market doing? What is it trending towards? So the 90-day moving to the 30-day kind of gives us an indication if it's going up or if it's going down. So is it turning to more of a seller's slowing, or is it going to a buyer's where it's kind of speeding up in that way? So if we look at Airdrie, I'll go through all of these here, but Airdrie was at 6 months and it's moving down into a 4.5. Bragg Creek is also moving down. Calgary was at a 3.9 and at a 3 months. Now that's pretty tight and close together, which is great. And the fact that Calgary is sitting at 3 months of inventory for the 30-day number. That's pretty wild. Canmore is at a 2.7. So they also are moving into their spring market as well. Chestermere is at 4 months, which is down from almost 5 months. Cochrane, super tight. They were at 2 months of inventory. But again, you got to look at the really low numbers. So, but they're at 1.7. Places like Heritage Point actually went the opposite way, and Rural Foothills went the opposite way. So their market slowed down a little bit. But again, you have to look at how many properties, like we're talking small numbers. So it's really, really hard to say for sure that market's over, because that's not true. But it's really good to see specifically the Calgary number, because there's a lot of data points that we can pull from. And to see that go from 3.9 down to 3 months, that means homes over $1 million are in a really good place. Now, there is a sore finger right in the middle here. There was a large sale that happened in De Winton this last month, over $10 million. And that is just showing De Winton being the king this month, which is great. But at the end of the day, when you can kind of see some of these numbers, I mean, Canmore is sitting at 1.49, Calgary's 1.25. Canmore was around that 1.6 number for a bit, but again, some probably that low $1 million range properties sold a lot more this last couple months or last month. When we're looking at dollars per square foot, there's De Winton again at $1,000. So if a $10 million property sold, that's probably a 10,000 square foot property that sold. In Calgary, we're sitting at about $550. Canmore is at $950, which I think is a little bit higher than what we've seen theirs be over the last number of months. And then kind of everything else is kind of in there. But if you want to look at the data, here's some interesting stats. Is all the stats, the median sale prices, the price per square foot for all the areas. Feel free to pause, look at that if you like. Now let's talk about Calgary. So this right here is what I'm looking at. 219 sales. Like, that is a pretty big jump from last month. Now, if you look year over year, last year we had 202 sales, and the month before that was 141. So last month when we did this, we were talking about, okay, well, the luxury market's a little bit slower than it was last year. Well, this month it was much quicker than it was last year at this time, or more transactions that happened. Now, I'm not looking at this number and saying the market's going down, because again, there's not enough data for us to like truly be able to say what the median sale price is. But it's kind of a moving number. So I'm just looking and saying that trend line is still in the upwards. And that's what we're seeing. But when we dig into price points and price ranges in Calgary, you can see this line here roughly is a 2.5. And if that's the 5, I'm going to guess right about here is there balanced. So roughly around those, in between this space is a balanced market. Up here is a seller's, and down here is a buyer's market. So none of the areas technically, or the price points, are in a buyer's market. I think those are not, those numbers are a little bit different. So the fact that basically anything in $1 million up to, let's call it, is that 1.9? So let's call it about 2 million or so, 1.9. That is all in a balanced market when we're talking about the whole market. To me, those are kind of seller's market numbers when you're talking higher end properties. And so that's pretty crazy, because if you actually zoom out a little bit and see the whole market, 2.5 is right about there. And so if you're looking again, where's that 1.9? Right here. All the way up to $2 million, basically our whole market is sitting under roughly 4 months of inventory. That is still really, really low. Like, the inventory in the city has gone up, and I think it's over 5,000, 5,100 or so last month. And I still don't think that's enough properties to kind of push us into a a buyer's market, or get us into that balanced and then out of the balance and into the buyer's market. And so like we probably need to see citywide that number being more closer to 7,000, maybe even 7,200. And then we're going to be on a balanced market. And then if we get into the 8, 9, 10,000, well, then we're for sure sitting in that buyer's market, right? So we're still in a tighter market, but not everything is selling as quickly as other things. And so when we're looking at different product types for $1 million and over, we can kind of see that, and these are the months, January, February, and March. The detached properties are kind of maroony color there, currently sitting at about 4 months. Semi-detached are sitting at 4.2. Townhomes are sitting at 12 months, and it really jumped up compared to the last couple of months. And then apartments are pretty steady around 7 months or so. There's just really not that many of these, I would say. Much more in Calgary itself. There's going to be way more detached and semi-detached over $1 million. So the market is fairly steady, right? It's fairly steady when we look at those types of inventory. So like I said at the beginning, not all neighborhoods are moving as quickly as other ones. And there are some neighborhoods that are moving really slow. So let's jump in and look at what are some of the slowest or the largest months of inventory. And we're starting with Upper Mount Royal. Upper Mount Royal is just south of downtown, and it currently has for the 90-day months of inventory is 33 months. That is really long. The price per square foot of the sales is about $530 per square foot, and we're only seeing one property selling every 3 months. So over the last 3 months, there's only one sale, and there's currently 11 actives. And if you look at the data for that neighborhood, this is not just $1 million, it's the whole price range. So you can see all the data of the $1 million and over. And from there are a handful of places that are like under 500, because there's some older condo buildings and things in that neighborhood too. But over the last month, there's been no sales at all in Upper Mount Royal. Now, the next slowest is Shaganappi, and Shaganappi is close to Upper Mount Royal. It is just on, let's call it the west side of Crowchild, inner city, where there's a golf course and things there, right? And so they're sitting at 27 months of inventory. Now, we don't know their price per square foot because there was really no sale data. And so there's only one sale happening every 3 months currently. And there's 9 active places right now, with about a 7 detached and about 3 semi-detached. Now in Ross Carrick is another neighborhood right in that same area, where they're sitting at about 24 months of inventory over the last 90 days. They too only have one sale over the last 3 months, and there's 8 active properties over $1 million. Now, Spruce Cliff is also tied, and they're sitting at 24 months as well. So they only also have one sale over the last 3 months, and they got 7 active places over $1 million. And Spruce Cliff is right in that same area. So they're all those 3 areas are pretty much right in the same area there, and they're $1 million plus properties. They're really slow right now. Now, one that I want to share with you that's a little bit different, I don't even have the months of inventory because there have not been any sales at all. And there's 10 active places here, over $1 million. And I think there's one pending at the time of shooting, but that's Royal Oak. So up in Royal Oak, now I've got the chart for their whole neighborhood, not just $1 million. So $1 million and over is this range right here. And so you've got 8, 9, 10, so there's your $1 million places. But this neighborhood has a bunch of activity otherwise, right? So they have a lot of actives, even in this range. Like, I'm quite surprised that there's not some sales in the 500 range up there, but there's a handful of sales down in the lower ends in the townhomes and some of the apartments that are up there. But last month, Royal Oak just really didn't move. And it's interesting to see a suburb neighborhood, because I just don't always want you to think we're just only looking at inner city neighborhoods for $1 million and plus, because there's definitely some areas. But again, this one is moving really slow. So if you are a buyer looking in any of these areas or slower months of inventory, which are higher months of inventory areas, which we can help you sort out where you should look, what you should look at if you're working with us. So reach out out in the contact link and we can help you. But you could find some motivated sellers, people who really do need to sell their properties, and find some great options for you for that $1 million plus range, which is completely different than these other neighborhoods that I'm going to share with you. The neighborhood that is the quickest right now and is trending even faster is West Springs. Now, on the west side of the city, up the hill, there's this neighborhood called West Springs. So their 90-day months of inventory was 1.8 months, and their 30 is 1 month. So they only have 1 month of inventory on the market as of last month. They've got about a $458 per square foot, and there was 5 sales per month typically happening in this neighborhood over $1 million. So if we look at their chart, this is really interesting because at $1 million, this is the line right here. You have, that looks like 8, 9, 10, maybe about 9 or 10 sales that happened last month. And I think there's about 13 to 14 sales that happen under $1 million. Now in West Springs, there are 9 active places over $1 million, where 76% of the activity over $1 million is detached properties and 24% of the activity is apartments. So this neighborhood has a lot of fantastic $1 million plus properties for you to consider, but they also have the depth and the foundation of people who may want to stay in that neighborhood and move up into bigger properties. So if this is an area where you're looking at it going, hey, you know what? I can spend $600 right now and I'm going to find something in that range. At some point, if I love this neighborhood, you could stay there and move up into a $1.5 million property, right? So this is one of those unique areas that not every area is like, but I wanted to share that with you. Now, the next one is Varsity. Varsity currently has a 90-day months of inventory of sitting at 2.14 months, which is in a seller's market. And over the last 30 days is down to a 1 month of inventory. They're usually around $476 per square feet, and they are looking at about 2.3 sales per month in this neighborhood. And currently there's about 5 actives or so. And of the activity that's happened, we're seeing about 91% of it being detached properties and only 9% being apartments over $1 million. So if you're looking for a detached property that is really good inner city type location in the Northwest, Varsity is a fantastic choice for you. So another neighborhood that I want to share and highlight is Springbank Hill. This is also up close to West Springs, up the hill on the west side of the city. And their 90-day number is 6.6 months of inventory, and their 30s is 3.6. So their market has really sped up. So they're sitting in a balanced market right now, and they are at $542 per square foot. They have about 3.3 sales per month that happen, and currently have 21 active properties in the neighborhood. So there are a lot of detached, because 100% of the activity is detached homes. So a lot of detached options in Springbank Hill over $1 million that I think you might really like. It is a great neighborhood that we don't talk about too much, but it's one that you should really, really consider if you're looking for a kind of suburb type feel, but not far from downtown. West Springs, Springbank Hill, those are really 2 great options. Now, jumping back inner city is North Glenmore Park. North Glenmore Park over the last 90 days saw 3.5 months of inventory, and their 30-day is down to 2.1. They're at about $586 per square feet, and they have about 3.7 sales per month. Currently, they got 12 active places, and about 55% of the activity is detached, where the rest is semi-detached. So if you're looking for a semi-detached property in the city, this might be an area that you want to consider. There's lots of these inner city areas that have a lot of semi-detached properties, but you may not be able to afford the full detached that could be, over $2 million, but you're kind of in that 1.3 range, something like that, and you want to be inner city, semi-detached type properties. Now, make sure you have a good builder that you're potentially buying from if it's new, or you know who the builder is if you're buying resale. Something we can talk about if you want to work with us, but that's really, really important when it comes to buying inner city semi-detached properties. So as promised, I'm going to share the lowest and the highest dollar per square foot that had more than one sale, because again, we could have many, many properties with only one sale, but the cheapest area, there's actually 2. I had to do 2, but the cheapest areas are Woodlands. Now, you might not even know where Woodlands is. So Anderson Road, 14th Avenue, down south, Woodbine, Woodlands, Cedarbrae, it's all in that area down there. Now, they had $369 per square feet, and they did have a handful of sales over $1 million. Now, the next one that I had to highlight is also really close to there, and it's called Canyon Meadows. Canyon Meadows is a great neighborhood, and half of their neighborhood is more of an estate feel, and their dollar per square foot is only $404. So those are two areas. If you're looking for older, bigger homes, these could be great areas for you to consider for that price range. So the highest price per square foot, dollar per square foot neighborhood, well, it was actually over $1,000 per square foot. It was even over $1,300 per square foot. Actually, Lakeview was $1,303 per square foot for the sales that happened. Now, Lakeview is right off of Glenmore Trail, and it's right off of the reservoir. So that is a beautiful location, and Lakeview is putting out some pretty fantastic properties to have $1,303 per square foot. So if you found this great, you love this information, you want more information like this, you can go up here and watch this video, or jump in the comments and let us know how we can help you find a fantastic home over $1 million, or maybe you need to sell your home. Either way, reach out to us and let's chat.